We check in on how school's going.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
You know, it just has not been a usual spring and summer when it comes to the school systems in general, and specifically the city of Providence, which is why we've spent, I think, an extraordinary amount of content time here talking about the school system. I firmly believe that as Providence goes, so goes the state of Rhode Island, and to a certain degree, vice versa. But I do believe with the provinciality that most of us have either been born with or adopted, and I'll be here on the radio some 20 years. By the way, I think it's actually today, it's either today or tomorrow, marks 6 years for this television program, so how about that? But all this time, I've been trying to convince everybody around here that begrudging the city of Providence, being antagonistic with the city of Providence, from the suburbs and the more rural sections of the state will only come back to bite you in your own booty because we spend so much taxpayer money, understandably so. If you understand the economics of urban America, that's just the way it goes. And so in the same sense that we need to support the city of Providence, I think everybody else has a right to ask questions about what's happening in the city of Providence. So I think it goes both ways. Good Wednesday evening to you. We're taping this program yesterday. We've had some irregular production schedules. It will probably last until next week, so I'll always cite for you on what day we recorded the show because, you know, Murphy's Law, as it always happens. Last night we had Professor Joe Cambrano from Providence College on a program that we had taped originally on Monday. We're talking about the White House and what happened yesterday, actually at the time that I'm taping this Tuesday, but you're seeing it Wednesday, but yesterday, you know, John Bolton was blown out, according to the president. According to John, he resigned. But so my point is that we're trying to keep up. We're trying to keep up with the pace. My guess is by Wednesday evening, nothing demonstrative would have happened with the Providence City Schools, although later in the week we have the hearing show cause date on the calendar. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to go. My guess probably has an inkling on that, and that is Maribeth Calabro, the head of the Providence Teachers Union from the American Federation of Teachers, who, to her credit, has been incredibly available to media requests to dialogue about the teacher perspective on the challenging Providence schools. So in the meantime, last week we had the interim superintendent of schools, Fran Gallo, here, and she made a couple of really interesting points. One, she indicated to us that she would be available if the mechanics and the relationship were right to stay on as a consultant to whoever would be the new turnaround superintendent appointed by the new commissioner, Angelica Infante Green. But I asked Fran what the 90 days that she has, by law, maximum, to be in this role as interim superintendent meant, and what her challenge was, and what the transitional role she thought it was important to play. Here's what she said. People and their approach matter, right?
That's correct. It's all up to the people, and what you can get done, what you can accomplish is very dependent on relationships, which is why I think Angelica Infante Green is really right in trying to develop the relationships among the people. I think where we falter is when we put down people in order to pick other people up. That doesn't work. None of us should be putting people down. We have to lift people up. It isn't ever all teachers. There are always, and I believe in every system, a few teachers who need to go. And there are always extraordinary teachers.
True, right?
True.
Welcome again. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
She has an ironic relationship, I think, with reportedly with the Providence Teachers Union. In that when she left Providence and went to Central Falls as a superintendent, she had to make some really, really tough decisions. And she came up against that specific teacher union, and they had some pretty public confrontations.
Yes.
She was actually selling the concept in applying for this interim position that she could, my words, provide kind of a nurturing role with your union in settling things back in interimly. Does she see it correctly? Do you believe that's true?
I do. I think that she left on a high note, and I think that she came back, with that in mind. And I think that she thought and believes that that's what we needed after the summer that we had, and after what was said and what's been said about all teachers, and being painted with a broad brush. I think that she felt like if she came back and worked on morale and building up where we needed to be built up, that she could be the person to do that.
The left on good footing, remember she worked for a couple of superintendents ago as a high-level administrator. It's been kind of a revolving door there for you, right, for Providence. What was her asset? What was it that she brought to the table that you thought, caused you to say, well, she left on the right foot, meaning it was going well?
Well, when she was here last, we had made significant gains in middle schools, and we had an entire group of teachers who come together several days after school and on weekends to turn around middle schools, which is one of our biggest areas of focus currently, because that work kind of
you
went
work
away.
in middle schools as a teacher.
I do,
yeah.
and I worked on that team. And so we did some significant work around social emotional learning before it was called social emotional learning, and standards-based education back then when it was Course 1, and then other things that they used to call it before they called it standards-based education. And we had buy-in from well over 200-300 teachers in a basement of St. Bartholomew's back in the day, after school for, like I said, 2 to 3 nights a week, working on these things to get things moving in middle schools where we thought we had the greatest need.
Was that work continued? Did it suspend?
No,
did it
went
dissolve?
away as soon as she went away, which is typical of what happens in schools when leadership changes, especially as much as it does in Providence. That's why we see the problems that we see, is because typically when a new leadership comes in, they like to put their stamp on it. And so we have different curricula, different ideas, different leadership styles, and that's where we get into a little bit of trouble.
Okay. How has her interimship been going now?
I think it's been going well. I mean, she's boots on the ground. She's been in schools every day since the first day of school. She was in schools every day before the first day of schools. I mean, from the day that she was told that she was going to be appointed interim, she tried to start work, and they told her, hang on a second, you need a contract first, and she started working from home, and she has deployed everyone at central office into the schools to support every day, all day, for the first few weeks of school, so that we make sure that everybody's safe in classrooms, on their positions before and after school. Buses are running on time and things like that. So
she was saying that the most important thing that she can provide is to create some kind of fertility amongst the current bureaucracy and teacher staff, to be open and accepting to new leadership, including whoever it is that is chosen to be the new superintendent of schools. That's a little bit of what she was saying in that clip that I played. A, do you agree that that ought to be her role? And B, is she succeeding? Softening the tone, I think, is what she's trying to do. She's trying to soften the tone.
I think she is trying to soften the tone. I think that, she shows up to meetings, and she listens very intently. She writes everything down, and if you call her with an issue, it gets resolved almost immediately. So I think that she is trying to bridge that gap. I hope that she does stay on. I hope that, on her 90th day that she doesn't flick off the lights, and, on the following day of 91, the new person flicks on the lights and we never see hide nor hair of her again, because that would be, damaging to the groundwork that she's done for the 90 days. I think it would be shocking to people to have one person just leave and another person just start. I think there needs to be a transition plan.
Well, I did ask her about that on her visit last week, and I think for the first time publicly she said yes, she's open to staying on under the right conditions. leadership matters so much, and the person matters. When we come back, we'll talk about the person who's really in charge right now, and that'd be the commissioner, how that's going, and how the teachers are dealing with the facilities. Are they in the shape that they reportedly are? Next. So the new superintendent, Angelica Infante Green, has been emphatic that the next choice for a superintendent is her responsibility. And my reaction to that is no kidding, Sherlock. The clean version. We'll talk about some of the pushback on that coming in the next segment. But by all at least distant accounts, it seems as if your working relationship with the new commissioner, union head to commissioner, has been constructive.
Yes.
Characterize it. Other than that, elaborate.
We have met, we've had conversations, we're talking about, negotiating a new successor agreement long prior to the time that we usually, well, I can't go back on the last contract, but, usually I send a letter talking about formal negotiations coming in January, but we'll probably start before that to negotiate a successor agreement. We want to be collaborative in this turnaround. She's received a copy of the PTU plan for moving forward, so I think we'll be okay.
She wants to do some things, including, as examples, checking who's going to school and who's going to work, meaning students and teachers.
Yep.
Is that something that she can implement if the software, as they're working on, bears fruit pre-next contract? Is that something that you will... Clearly, you should have input on how it's implemented, but will it be a negotiating component, or is that just something... Are you guys going to be in a position where you say, okay, listen, you need to score some administrative strategies here off the bat. We're not going to fight you.
Yeah, I would have to see what it looked like first. So my only
the concept
concern
is, for most people, go, yeah, well, they ought to go to work,
right,
and they ought to be there, and you,
and I've
to
said
your
from the
credit,
beginning,
have
right,
been strong on it.
I have been very strong on it.
So it doesn't seem like that's a hill you want to die on.
It's not a hill I want to die on. My only concern is anything that could jeopardize any HIPAA violations. So if it were something to the effect of reporting out that there were 3 out of 6 second grade teachers out in a very small building or whatever, and you could probably figure out who those were, that may be something that I would be concerned about. But if we want to say 85% of teachers were absent or in school at Nathaniel Green, that's fine with me.
Yeah, but I think there's going to have to be some individual accountability, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, HIPAA. I know. Listen, it's a sticky wicket. There's no.
It is.
There aren't many corporations that will that will even provide roll call or publicize who in, who's out. I mean, most people kind of get it. If Dan's been ill for 10 days, they kind of know why he's not there. If Mary Beth's been gone on vacation, they kind of know. If there's a family issue, people kind of understand things, and it doesn't get published.
Right.
I get that you need some of that protection. At the same time, this is a public role. It's a taxpayer-funded job, and you can't be screwing off. And it seems somewhere along the line, someone's got to be able to say, by the way, there's a public admonishment that comes along with it. That's the rub, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and I've also said that, if Maribeth Calabro, which I don't, by the way, but if Maribeth Calabro has Monday-Friday syndrome, then it's incumbent upon the principal to call me in and say, you have Monday-Friday syndrome. They have access to that information at the end of every week. And so on Monday, the expectation would be to call me in and say, you've been absent for the past 3 Fridays. And so I'm going to send this letter. You're going to get a copy of this letter. And your next step is to go see Human Resources, and they're going to have a conversation with you. And then the Human Resources does what they do, which is typically give them a suspension, a day without pay, 2 days without pay, or whatever the case may be, if they've noticed. And that's changed just from May of last year. So, when this most recent human resources director came in, or executive director came in, they focused on absenteeism, and we've had someone terminated for abusive absence, and then it's just gotten more rigid and regimented, and now it's really focused on accountability because we've worked on adjusting the system. So starting of May of last year, when the first numbers came out, now it's every principal knows their data, each individual teacher's data on every Friday. It wasn't like that before, so now they do. And so now they're holding teachers accountable the next week for past absences.
Speaking of accountability, you and I agreed that what the mayor should have done after the Johns Hopkins devastating report was respond on a school-by-school basis with an audit report of what the maintenance issues were, not the capital improvement stuff, not the $20 million we're spending this on a new air conditioning system here, but the stuff.
Yep.
And you have been
The minutia.
The minutia. The minutia that adds up to the maximutia.
Correct.
Which is, you know what? This is an intolerable place to work.
Correct.
They never did it.
No.
I asked the superintendent, the interim superintendent, twice if she would enforce the issue. She couldn't pull it off. It's that responsibility buck in the city of Providence is a perfected art, seems to me.
Mm-hmm.
Notwithstanding that, how are the schools?
So for day one, they were beautiful. They were shiny and clean, and
All of them?
I didn't get any reports, to be
The
perfectly
commissioner
honest
herself
with you.
actually expressed disappointment with some of the schools she visited, so.
I did, like I said, no teachers reported anything specific to me, but that doesn't mean that this week I haven't gotten any. So I've gotten this week, and the teachers have already been told by me to file reports with their principals so that they can get them addressed. But I've gotten reports already this week of roaches and rodents in classrooms already. So here we go again.
A coat of paint doesn't fix that.
No, doesn't.
What do we do? Well, this is the kind of thing that
These are the kinds of things that, like I said to my members, is that, I said to you the last time we were here, I think that we've gotten so used to just saying, okay, this is our school. Nobody's going to do anything about it, so we're just going to stay in school and we're not going to be quiet. We're just going to be quiet about it. Every single time somebody sends me something, I'm going to make a pest out of myself, and I'm going to bring it to the highest level. And
you should not. You shouldn't even apologize for that. I mean, there might be some things that you and I have in the past and in the future we'll debate and argue over.
Mm-hmm.
This ain't one of them.
No.
Somebody's got to keep saying, but,
Right.
you said,
Right.
but this was going to be different. I mean,
Right.
you've got to do that.
Yep.
It seems to me you've just absolutely got to do that. When we come back, we're about around the fourth turn and heading for home on the formal state takeover here. There's a little bit of a but. Let me see what the teacher union president says about that. Stay with us. So this headline appeared last week. There's some student and parent groups, and but not the big parent group that has been identified. What is it? Plea? What is Providence? What is that, Maribeth? The Providence. What are they called? The Providence plea.
Plea. Yeah, I don't know.
Plea for learning excellence,
excellent education. Yeah.
Are not party to this potential litigation.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Wood is a really smart lawyer she's the one who is helping to lead the lawsuit to guarantee the constitutional right for an education for kids, which is a complicated conversation. But she has taken on a request by a handful of groups to intervene, to be the fifth wheel, so to speak, in the spoke of those who can say, we have a problem with this takeover. Your union was not part of that entity either,
No.
but the superintendent has the right, the mayor, the city council, and the school committee, all of whom in their own ways have said, it's all good. I had Jennifer Wood on the radio last week and asked her, inevitably, we going to court here? Are you so committed to a formal wedge into this process that you will litigate to do so?
Well, certainly I need to let my clients be informed of what their rights are and what their choices are, and then we'll make that decision. If the commissioner rules against the motion to intervene, then my clients have a right to appeal that to the Board of Education. Meanwhile, her hearing will go forward.
Okay, the Board of Education is going to say no. Then what happens?
From the appeal route from the board is to the court.
Yeah, to the court. If I'm not mistaken, you retweeted some of their activity.
I did.
You know, retweets constitutes sanctioned opinion. You're kind of pretty active on the Twitter.
I am.
Were you saying something by retweeting it?
So, yeah, because I think that when you come in and whoever it is, when I say to my students, I want us to talk about the classroom rules and we're going to develop our classroom rules together, and then when they start saying things that I don't like, I can't say, oh, no, we're not going to put that classroom rule up. So when the commissioner came in and she said, I want to hear from everybody, we're all going to be a part of this, and then she said, oh, but no, not you.
Not you who? Them?
Not the students and not the community folks. And you're not going to say, you know, they have a right to be upset. This is going to be one of those things that we're going to have to disagree on, because
8 community hearings, to your credit. You went to all of them, or most of them.
Well, most. I went away for 2.
But,
But,
yes.
yep.
A promise of more sessions,
Yeah.
And they are scheduled and on the book. What?
Yep.
You don't think they'll happen?
No, but the way that they were scheduled, that was another, you know, faux pas, right? They came out 22 hours. The schedule came out 22 hours before.
There's been some clumsiness.
Right. It hasn't been clean.
But here's, nobody's perfect.
No.
You got.
You're right. Nobody's perfect.
You got a new commissioner who's trying to hit the ground running. You know, Hall of Fame hitters hit 375, right? So I would suggest he's hit 750 or 800 at this point. No. All right, whatever. But here's the thing. At some juncture, you got to go, you know what? I'm the boss. At some juncture, you got to say, you know what? I got to run the show. At some juncture, you got to say, I'm accountable for this hire. So, you know, lead follower, get the hell out of the way. Last line.
So I think that all of us have something important to offer to the process, and I think that we should at least be heard.
How could she not keep engaging you and do well? It's counterintuitive.
I understand.
This formality is nothing more than, I think, politics behind the scenes. But at some juncture, maybe we'll continue that on the radio side.
Okay.
And find out whether you believe in my conspiracy theories. But good advocacy. So far, almost
you.
so good. So far.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Day to day.
Day to day.
All right. Thanks, Maribeth. Final word. Next. I really do think that they got to give the commissioner some maximum room to run here, because her career and I think the future of the Providence schools, at least for the time being, relies on it. On the program tomorrow night, important discussion about the opioid crisis, which continues despite perhaps a little bit of a lull in attention. That and more. We'll talk to you on the radio too at 3 until 6 on WPRL. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.